So I had something I wanted to run past you.
Okay.
About somebody that we both know.
Ooh.
I'm starting to suspect that they might be a juggalo.
Oh, my.
Or a vapor.
Oh my gosh. This is serious.
So most of the time with those two things, it's pretty obvious because it's almost like being a vegan who CrossFits, which I always like the joke of. If you find a vegan who what do they tell you about first?
Right.
So normally people are pretty out and about.
Well, the vaping you can't miss.
Yeah,
I want to hear why you're suspecting, but it's got that Uber smell, right?
Yeah, so that's step number one. If someone doesn't declare it to you, it's that Uber driver smell of that. And also, with them potentially being down with the clown, I haven't seen the face paint. I haven't seen like the weird stickers on the back of the car.
Okay.
And it might be that I'm fairly certain that if you are a juggalo, you part of the process is vaping.
Oh, right.
So maybe I'm conflating.
The Venn diagram of like the juggalo and the vapor is just one circle right over top of the other.
It's like an eclipse.
Right.
But so the smell started it.
Yeah.
I think the juggalo thing came in because I didn't even know you could get this at Faygo soda.
I don't know what that is.
I believe it's a preferred juggalo soda.
Okay.
As I'm saying this out loud to you, I'm starting to realize I seem to know way too much about the...
For a non-juggalo, you know a lot about... So it's called Faygo?
I believe that's how it's
pronounced.
What?
Maybe I have heard of that. It's like an 80s...
I remember when we were younger, but that's like their key thing. So it might not have been that, but it might have been another like kind of discount soda.
Well, yeah, because I don't know anything about juggalos unlike you, but I do feel like I don't think of juggalos as... And I could be wrong, but like doing drugs and drinking, I feel like they're drinking like Code Red Mountain Dew, getting really pumped up. But maybe that's where the vaping comes in. So what were the clues? Was it a smell?
So there was that Uber driver smell, which it's kind of like crushed up nerds with a little bit of armpit. Yeah,
so
just a hint, just
it really
a touch.
Is. Yeah. So well, I actually have a thought though. Is that the vape smell, or is that like? Do we think of it as Ubers because they put those deodorizer things in their thing and it's like the same?
It's not their armpit smell. It's everyone else's armpit smell.
Yeah,
that's been in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, but there's just you get that gut feeling about something, and I think something's up. So
what are you gonna do? Do you confront the person? Do you demand answers?
That's a good.
So you said we both know this person,
right? So I'll give you some more direct hints off the air. For
okay.
Who this? Or actually, I'll tell you who it is. So my thought is: do I try to bait them and pull them out, or do I respect them for at least having the decency to be ashamed and to hide their filthy, dirty habit?
Oh, that's a good point. That's very key because, to your point, going back to vegan and CrossFit, if I found out somebody I knew was vegan, and I'm like, I've known you for how long?
Yeah. Well,
I'm just now finding out you're vegan?
I don't think that's possible if someone's vegan for you not to know.
Right, but I didn't think that about vaping either.
Yeah, that's a good
being
point.
A juggalo. So.
Or if you put vegan on any of those. I don't know if there's many vegan juggalos. That would be something to...
No, I don't think it's possible.
That's our next podcast. There's
vegan juggalo.
We need to make something for the vegan juggalo market.
I want to Google vegan juggalo.
No, you don't.
No good way to transition into this one.
Yeah.
But thinking about people that dress very badly, juggalos. People that dress very nicely, you might say to them, they're dressed to the nines.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking for a minute here. I'm going to go back in my mental Wayback Machine. Unfortunately, because we've said the term juggalo, everything that's coming through my head still ends up with some guy soaked in soda with a bad...
Code Red Mountain Dew.
Yeah, Code Red Mountain Dew and poorly painted face. So dressed to the nines when I can push the evil clowns out of my head. I'm thinking like some like 1930s movie and someone's like, it's black and white and, Ginger Rogers is dancing with someone, but I still have no idea what the number would be. Why the nines?
Why nines? Yeah. And so have you ever thought about the fact that, because I haven't until I started looking this up, that there are a lot of idioms with the number 9.
Okay.
I bet we can start thinking of them if you try it. Like, so the whole 9 yards, a stitch in time saves 9. There are a lot, and there's something about this number 9. Yeah, so anyway, I don't think that Dressed to the Nines is one that you hear that often anymore. I don't think it's as often.
You don't hear, but you know it when you hear it. Like, it makes sense. You don't have to have someone explain that to you.
I think part of Dressed to the Nines, after reading up on this, is it sounds good.
It does sound. I mean, it has a nice flow to it.
Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate the way things just sound.
Yeah, the cadence of it.
Yeah, right. So I remember, actually, just thinking about this now, I remember I used to always look for really deep lyrics in bands I liked, you know, so I would really pride myself on, like, I wouldn't listen to bands that had really terrible lyrics, and I wanted bands that had lyrics that had, like, you know, multiple meanings and metaphor and all this stuff. And I remember reading Tom York of Radiohead, whom I love, and they were talking about, and he was like, yeah, like, half my lyrics don't mean anything. It's just they sound good. And I was kind of devastated. I was like, and then I read the same thing from Doug March from a band called Built to Spill, who, and the weird thing about Built to Spill is their lyrics are tremendous, and one of the main reasons I like them. And he was just saying, yeah, like this phrase, I can't remember the exact line, but to me, in my head, it meant something so deep, you know? And I realized I had been listening to it wrong, and it wasn't even the word I thought it was.
Right.
And he straight up was like, yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. It just sounded cool.
Right.
And again, I'm going, what in the world? But I think about it now and I go, there's something to that. There's something about just the way things sound. So anyway, I didn't mean to go off on all that, but I think some Dressed to the Nines in a way just sounds better than Dressed to the Sevens.
Right.
Or
and most importantly out of that, you said Tom and did not say Thom, which is still in my head when I see Tom spelled that way. I still say Thom.
You want to hear, this is embarrassing. I used to work with a guy named Tom. And I can be an airhead sometimes. And so there's Tom York, who spells it Thom, and then there's Tom Brenneman. So I'm a big Cincinnati Reds fan.
Right.
And he does our play-by-play. And his dad, Marty Brenneman, has done radio forever.
Right.
I grew up listening to him on my AM radio in Ohio. I listen to him now. So Tom Brenneman spells it Thom as well. And there's like a Twitter account that makes fun of him as Thom. One day at work, I was typing something up, and I said, Tom, you spell your name Thom? And everyone started laughing at me because I guess it's not that common.
Right.
I am like, two important Toms in my life spell it that way. So, but I think Dressed to the Nines sounds cool. Now, this does obviously have to do, with, you know, clothing and tailors. And you said this actually goes back to the 1800s.
Okay.
There's an example where Samuel Fallows had this thing called the Progressive Dictionary of the English Language in 1835, and he had To the Nines in there as an entry.
Okay.
He said, Dressed to the Nines suggests that it may be derived from To Thine Eyes, which he didn't really offer any evidence of that, right?
But he did put it in a dictionary, so that's got to count for something.
Exactly. And actually say that, but, you know, something being in a dictionary, like he could have come up out of thin air.
Yeah.
1835, that thing was distributed, and
I also don't think he's spending too much time. You know, how can I sneak the definition of? Or maybe he did. Maybe he needed a few extra pages and found a way to just start making up stuff.
Right. So anyway, the people that have tried to explain this whole Dressed to the Nines thing associate the number 9 with clothing. And I think one of the theories is that tailors used to use 9 yards of material to make a suit. Whole 9 yards. I mentioned before. So if you're Dressed to the Nines, there was a lot of material used.
Oh. Okay. That sense, I'm hearing the whole 9 yards. I'm thinking some sort of like football reference, because that's just where my mind goes.
Exactly. And it has nothing to do with football. And that is something that is, you know, we commonly think about. And frankly, what does anything mean? You know, now when people say the whole 9 yards, I think probably 80% of people are thinking of football, but it's not. Right. So there's this thing about the whole 9 yards, meaning you used all the nine yards of cloth. But also throughout history, believe it or not, the number 9 has been used a lot as sort of the highest level of something. Okay, so for example, in even as perfection. So even in like the 18th century, like well before Dressed to the Nines, there was somebody named William Hamilton who wrote Epistle to Ramsay. This is back in 1719. And he's talking, and I can't even read this poem. It's like, the bonny lines therein thou sent me, how to the nines they did content me. So, to the nines, he's talking about a beautiful Bonnie Lass, right? Again, why 9? So
why not 10? If you're going all the way to 9, why not a perfect 10? Maybe that's how people improved on it later.
Yeah.
It's like we're pretty close to 10. 10's a good number. You're getting into double digits. You know, you rank things 1 out of 10.
Yeah. If you're a perfect 10,
yeah,
dressed to the nines.
So where was the Dress to the Nines dictionary? Was that United States based?
That was the guy that wrote that was you know what? I don't even know. Doesn't say. I always kind of assume England because of...
Yeah. Well, I'm going to assume that because that goes with what I was trying to say. So I think I'm going to pretend that that's an English dictionary, British one, and you know who had to improve it? America.
America, baby.
Perfect
we took it
10.
To perfect 10s.
You limeys go up to 9. Perfect 10.
Right,
go
right.
USA.
Yeah, so the other thing that could have something to do with it is, I guess 9s have long been used as superlatives. There's this thing called... There were these things called the 9 worthies. They were characters from pagan and Jewish history and also from the Bible. So the group included Hector, Alexander, Julius Caesar, Joshua, David, Judas, Maccabeus, Charlemagne, and Godfrey of Bouillon. I guess he's the guy that created the cubes.
Invented the cubes, yeah. I like how that's who we focused on after all those people. Hey, it's the cube guy.
Julius Caesar, let's talk about the Bouillon cube guy. So these were medieval scholars that were known, I guess, for a while as the 9 worthies. And then in classical mythology, you had the 9 muses of arts and learning. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to read them because they're all Greek.
Right. And again, as we go, it comes back to the Greeks. And if you want to learn about the muses and enjoy some ELO and Olivia Newton-John, watch Xanadu.
Okay.
Since we were talking about that, you were listening to a Jeff Lynne produced song when I came into your house. What were you listening to when I came in?
Oh, I didn't know Jeff Lynne produced it. I want you to hold that thought to our next topic.
Okay.
Because I set you up.
Oh. Did you just bait me with ELO and I didn't even realize it?
Close.
All right.
You're about to find out. Anyway, I don't know, man. This one, I'm befuddled on this one. That's it. There's no smoking gun. There's no direct proof of why we say it. The closest thing to me is the 9 yards of fabric that are used.
Yeah.
You have a full suit on. You look great. But it's a stretch.
I want to go with it. Sounds good. There's a good cadence to it. It just sounds very positive. Great. You're dressed to the nines. It's just something about it that just makes sense.
Yeah, and we don't. There doesn't have to be a logical. A lot of these, we've said. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said "dress to the nines," right? But I've read it. I've accepted it. I've probably said it before.
Yeah.
And never cared.
Right.
So why should we think that anybody else before us cared? You know, it was in some dictionary somewhere. Yeah. It sounded cool.
He cared.
He cared, and there it was. Keeping on with the 9 theme. Cloud 9. What does that mean to you?
So again, Cloud 9. I'm on Cloud 9. Things are going well. So you said earlier 9 means perfection.
Yep, it's like the highest level.
Yeah, things are going great. I'm on Cloud 9. You're going up.
Mm-hmm.
Heading in the right direction. It's not one of these like Dante's Inferno sort of things where you're going down. There's a number, but a descent.
Yeah.
I think it's just maybe it also goes back to just how things sound. I'm on Cloud 9.
So I don't think that with to the 9s, we said 9 was sort of like the highest level you could go. Mm. I don't think we figured out why. I mean, we talked about, so why though would Cloud 9 be, oh, I'm so happy, I'm on Cloud 9, I've been on, it is like this lingering thing of like, I've been on Cloud 9 all week, right? Like I can't come down from Cloud 9. So yeah, I'm with you. I think being this idea, this sort of visual of being up in the clouds, up in the sky, I'm not down to mundane things. I'm not into mundane things right now. I'm on Cloud 9. So the reason I said I set you up was because whenever I'm looking up these phrases, it always ends up coming back to either some band or some song. Right. So do you remember an album called Cloud 9?
Was it George Harrison?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So that was in his later years when he was in the Traveling Wilburys, which also had the guy, Jeff Lynne from ELO. as a producer.
And so he probably did produce that album, right?
So he has once you hear his sound, he had a very distinct sound. And when he was a producer in the late 80s, early 90s. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it in a way.
Interesting. So, like, I would never have been able to pick out the Jeff Lynne sound. Like, I know Jeff Lynne, I know Yellow. Very interesting. It's a very, it is a distinctive sound. Like, now thinking about it. And I didn't really know what to attribute it to. But what cracks me up about Cloud 9 from George Harrison is how nobody was exempt from the 80s, man. Like, so that if you listening to it, it's fine. But the album cover, it's like he got swept up. He looks so 80s, man. He's wearing like some 80s thing. He's got like the sunglasses on.
Right. Does he have like dad jeans on?
Yeah, he's got like stonewashed jeans. And it made me think about like Neil Young, I think is to me the most egregious example of like an artist that I really like who got caught up in the 80s. What was his album where he was like, don't drink Pepsi, don't drink Coke,
oh yeah,
Macintosh, this bad for you.
This note's for you. But he always, but in his defense, he dressed like a dirty hippie like his whole life. Like he kind of locked into that look. Like he locked into the, I'm an old man who still dresses like he's a grad teacher.
But he went, but the thing is though, he went full 80s for like one album. And this note's for you. But anyway, so George Harrison had an album called Cloud 9. There you go. But yeah, I played a little Cloud 9 for you before on the way in just because actually I wanted to listen to it and then I also wanted to bring it up in the podcast. So one of the things that could have to do with Cloud 9 is the other clouds, the less referenced clouds. Apparently,
that would not be vaped. Maybe they'd be hookah'd.
Right.
Or transmitted.
A hookah cloud. So apparently, this whole idea of like clouds has been used a lot. So if you you heard the phrase "cloud cuckoo land"?
I actually have to say that's not really jumping out at me.
Okay, so you must have not had a child who watched the Lego Movie over and over and over. Do you remember?
No, we own that movie.
Okay, so do you remember the scene where there's like the unicorns and the pink and everybody's singing and it's in my mind the most annoying part of the movie. Maybe that's why, because you walked out. I like the movie a lot.
I do, but I also with kid movies, I've found a way to kind of go into my own mental space and just disappear for a little bit.
Do the Ron Popeil, man. Set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Walk out of the room.
Find a happy place.
So
it's not Cloud Cuckoo Land, okay?
Well, I thought they made up Cloud Cuckoo Land, but apparently that's an actual term about sort of living in the clouds and sort of not being attached to reality. Having your head in the clouds, right? A little different than an idyllic sort of I'm on cloud 9.
Right.
And so there was a phrase called that had been used in mid 20th century, and it's a directory of slang by this guy Alban Pollock, and it's called The Underworld Speaks. So I love these ones where they're like, here's what the kids are saying.
Yeah.
I'm putting this in a book. I'll publish this. And Cloud 8. You want to know what Cloud 8 is? It's very similar to Pink Elephant.
Oh, that would be the code for what? To get some alcohol or you're drunk?
Being drunk, having too much liquor, being whatever, sort of altered.
That sounds like something someone's grandpa that was writing, a book of cool underground slang. Maybe is a good idea. Maybe we should just start making up words and seeing if we can get them into the ethos with that.
I feel like you're pretty good at that. Like you've actually done that with phrases. I
have good nickname skills. Nicknamification is how I've tried to consolidate it.
So Cloud 8 was that was like what 1930 something. This guy said, hey, this is slang. This is like down low slang. This guy's on Cloud 8. He's all messed up. But then about a few years later, about 10 years later, another guy in the Oxnard Press Courier in 1946, it was quoted about this guy said this guy's on Cloud 9. And he sort of meant it in the way that we talk about it now. He's happy. And around that same time, there was a Cloud 7, which was in so this is around 1952. They talked about Cloud 7, which meant just good. This is on Cloud 7. So I think
it progressed.
I think it goes back to of the way it sounds.
Yeah.
So this idea of being on a cloud, the idea of like we talk about the seventh hell. Seventh hell. Now that does have roots in other things that I'll research later. But I know it's more. But it's just there are levels of things, and I think being happy, being up in the clouds, Cloud9 just stuck as...
Yeah. You generally don't hear anything negative. Are there any, like, I'm trying to think of any phrases or idioms that being in the clouds that have like a negative connotation?
I think the most you could have is if you say somebody's sort of like not paying attention. Oh, his head's kind of in the clouds. He's out to lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's mild.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like, this is the seventh circle of hell.
Right.
You know? So this whole thing about nines is interesting. I chose these two. I mean, there are a bunch of other ones that have to do with nines.
Fortunately, nothing with vaping in your research came up with Cloud9, is my hope.
No.
And if you get a chance, Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John.
I will. I'm going to do that right now.
Everyone, do that.
I'm going to grab my vape pen.
Don't joke about that.
Don't drink Pepsi. Don't drink Coke.
Oh, yeah.
Macintosh
this
is bad for you.
This